without further ado, I'll just hand you over to Sister Tasneem here, who's going to be taking the tour.
Hello, hi everyone. Before we go inside to the prayer hall, we need to take our shoes off just to keep the carpets clean, because we actually pray on the carpets, and I'll explain about that a little bit later. So if we can take our shoes off, and there are shelves at the sides if you want to just put your shoes up there. If you can leave your bag inside, inside here.
Thank you very much.
You want to just hold that open? Yeah, people can just put their bags down there if it should be safe enough. Yeah. Would you like to just come over? We'll just have a... Do you prefer to sit on seats, or do you mind sitting on the floor? Yeah, all right? Okay. Welcome to the Edinburgh Central Mosque. This is the only purpose-built mosque in Edinburgh, and I don't know, when you came in you saw a building at the front there which is the mosque kitchen, the Aroma Cafe. That used to be the original mosque in Edinburgh. There was a very small Muslim community here, mostly Pakistanis, and that was sufficient for them. But as the community grew, they decided to buy this piece of land, which I think was a car park or something from the council, and decided to build the mosque on it. So they raised the funds, doing activities in the community, fundraising within the community, and started to build a mosque. And of course, the mosque project takes a lot of money, so they ran out of money, and it sat sort of three-quarter built for quite a long time. Then one of the princes from Saudi, one of the kings, he heard about it, and he decided to give the rest of the funds to complete the mosque. So the mosque was completed with those funds about 17 years ago. Okay. If anybody wants to ask any questions, just feel free to sort of interrupt me and ask questions. Do you want to come over? Do you want to come over? Yeah, so just feel free to interrupt. I don't want it to be really kind of formal, and I just want it to be a kind of a fun tour. Okay. So as I said, this is the only purpose-built mosque in Edinburgh. I don't know how many of you have been in a mosque, any mosque around Edinburgh or any part of the world. No. So you'll see the design of the mosque is quite simple. We don't have bright colours or statues, pictures, anything. The steps design is just for a decoration. Most mosques you'll see, they have very elaborate decorating, but not figures or statues, as I said. And the purpose of this is not to take our attention away from what we're here for. We come to the mosque to worship, to pray, and if you've got all these figures and bright colours and stuff, and then you'll obviously get distracted by them. So very bright colours. I've seen them in some of the churches and cathedrals, but yeah, you can see that it's very subtle colours here.
There is something quite distinct about the way that this mosque is put together in terms of its architecture. It follows a very famous Scottish architect, and you can probably recognise it with all the boxes that you can see around.
Yeah.
Does anyone know who it is we're talking about? Exactly. Now, so the idea of the mosque is to combine Islam with the Scottish culture and kind of unify it all in one place.
Yeah. So there are other mosques in Edinburgh which are converted warehouses or houses, which have got walls taken out. But as I said, this is the only purpose-built mosque in Edinburgh. So the purpose of the mosque is not just to come here to pray, to worship, but it's a community place. We have various things going on for children, for ladies, for men. There are circles for men and women. There are youth groups. There are mother and toddler groups, talks, films, various things going on.
It's like the crux of a community where people just learn all sorts of different things. So even just support groups for converts, for example, there's a sister support group for convert Muslims. There's absolutely everything here. On a Friday, there's people who come for different, for example, we have police workshops here, we have people who come for like medical exams and stuff like that. So it is really just like a community outreach where everyone can come, and the thing that brings it all together is your submission to God and your worship in one God and being Muslim.
This hall here is the men's prayer hall. It's the biggest hall in the mosque, and you can see that it's quite a big room. So we have another room downstairs, which is an overflow room. Upstairs, the ladies' area. You're probably thinking, why is the ladies' area so small and the men's area so big? More men come to the mosque, and the women, they're free to come if they want to. They don't have to. They can pray at home if they want to. So it's up to them. So we kind of feel special because of that. We can do what we like. But the men, it's expected of them to come to the mosque if they're around this area.
And how the mosque was actually built is the hall that we're going to go into later on. This was originally the women's prayer hall, which is a lot bigger than this here. But it wasn't being used to the way that it should have been used. What they did instead was they said, this used to be, up here used to be for the men as well. So instead they made that a multi-purpose hall. And they made up here where the women can pray as well. So we can overlook the men and see what's going on down there, but still with our own privacy as well. So obviously it's a lot more like, where we can do our own, we can talk there, a woman can feed her child there, she has her personal space. But at the same time, we can still see what's going on down here as well.
A lot of the students come over actually when they just want to come to a place where they want to meet each other, and it's a warm, safe place for them to come and meet. So it's not just for worship that they come for.
Are there different rules for men and women in terms of how they should pray?
No, it's the same.
You said that they came here more often. I don't know.
So the actual prayer itself is distinct, but in terms of coming to the mosque, men have more of an obligation to come to the mosque. For example, on Friday prayer, men have an obligation to come to the mosque and listen to the Friday sermon, and whereas women don't have that obligation. They can if they want to, if they don't want to, it's completely up to them. Men, when they come to the mosque, the rewards for praying here is greater. Whereas women praying at home gives them their greater rewards, and that's because of the different roles that women and men have or had in society. And it just gives women the ability of more free will. You want to come, you can, but you don't have to, and there's no kind of like pressure on a woman to come. And saying that though, it is very important as well that women are not stopped from coming to the mosque as well. This is like, it's very clear that like every mosque should have something for women that is available, and you're not allowed to say that women are not allowed to come to the mosque. Women are. It's a place for everyone.
And if there are any mosques, I mean, I come from Pakistan, and I know that there are mosques in Pakistan which don't let women come to the mosque, and that's a very cultural thing. It's not an Islamic thing. So there are two things: there are Muslims and there's Islam. Okay, so a lot of things are cultural, which may not be the way you're thinking. That this doesn't sound like Islam. They're probably cultural things. So we need to kind of define between them. Okay. So about Islam, you probably know that there are 5 pillars. I don't know if you know. Well, there are 5 pillars in Islam which a good Muslim should do. And the first one is the Shahada, which is the belief in God. So we believe that there is a God, only one God, and He made everything: the universe, the earth, us, plants, everything basically. And so that is the first pillar, the belief in God. Okay. The second one is the prayer, and we pray 5 times a day, and we're quite in tune with nature when we're praying. The first prayer is at just before sunrise, so it's quite nice before the sunrise. If you look out and you can just see the sun rising, and it's like you're appreciating nature at the same time as kind of getting ready to pray. During the winter months, obviously the prayers are much easier because the days are much shorter. Sunrise is at about 7-8 o'clock. During the summer, they're much, much longer. Sunrise is at about 2 in the morning, and we need to get up at that time to pray. So the second prayer is the afternoon prayer. The third one is the mid-afternoon. The fourth one is when the sun sets. And the last one is about 1.5 hours after that one. You can see the clocks at the back here. The top clock is the time just now. This clock, this one is the morning prayer. So that says 6:15. And that time is the time that the congregational prayer takes place in this mosque. Okay? So the time for the prayer is like about from 6 o'clock till about 7:30, I think it is just now. So you can pray in all of that time if you're at home. But if you want to come to the mosque and pray together with the congregation, then you would come here for about 6:15 to pray today. So all of those times are for congregational prayers. The last one at the bottom is the Jummah prayer, which is a Friday prayer. So that's Friday is a special day for us, just the same as Sunday is for Christians, Saturday for Jews. Friday is a special day for us. So we all meet here for the afternoon prayer, and it's quite nice in Scotland because the schools have half day. So parents will collect their kids from school and come, and I mean, this place is totally full. Upstairs is full, downstairs is pretty much full as well.
It's quite nice, but when you're trying to bring them in, you've got lots of kids around.
Yeah.
quite
Yeah,
empty.
yeah.
On a Friday, this place has about 1,000 plus people in it.
Yeah.
So this place, the exhibition hall downstairs, all around the sides, everyone is trying to fit into this place. So right now you see it's quite empty. But on a Friday, in terms of using the space, it's completely hectic.
Always seen itself as being here for the whole community, and has made a particular effort, going further than a lot of other mosques in being an open environment and even organising lots of types of activities which invite people in. So there are lots of open doors days, there's lots of school visits that take place here, and university-based activities like this one, as well as in particular in August, this mosque is one of the venues in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It's the venue number 48, if I remember correctly, and has been organising an exhibition and other types of events as part of the festival since, well, more than 10 years certainly, probably 12, 13 years that it's been doing that. This last couple of years it's been coinciding with Ramadan, which was a little bit tricky, but I think that they'll be back to full speed this year because Ramadan has just moved past. I don't know if you know about the fasting, because it follows the lunar calendar, so it moves back through the solar year, 10 or 11 days every year. So now Ramadan is before August, which means it's the longest possible fasting almost in the world, with the exception of countries which are more north than us. So this is the main hall of the mosque. And this is the place, naturally, being a mosque, the primary function of the mosque is for prayer. The primary function is for people to congregate, to perform worship. As you probably know, prayer is one of the main pillars of Islam. It is one of the 5 pillars as they are known. So as well as testifying to the oneness of God and that Muhammad is the Prophet of God, it is to perform the prayer, which is 5 times every day. It is to give the alms, which was discussed before, the zakat. It is to fast in the month of Ramadan, and it is to make pilgrimage at least once in one's life, if one is able, to Mecca, to the sacred mosque in Mecca, which is in Saudi Arabia. So being one of the pillars of Islamic life and worship, prayer is something which takes a very central part in everybody's day-to-day life as a Muslim. And that means that a person needs to pray at those certain times of the day, wherever he or she may be. And that doesn't mean always making your way to the mosque. So the mosque is here because congregation and being together and being part of the community is something which is always urged and recommended. But also a person is able to pray alone, able to pray at home, pray amongst other people, within one's family or colleagues and so on. But as far as possible, it is encouraged to come to the mosque, and here the congregational prayer is held 5 times each day. So naturally this spreads out throughout the day. Right now in the winter, we're still just about, we're leaving winter now, but we're still, the times are quite compacted together here in Scotland. So, as we can see here, there's a clock on the back wall. The top large clock here is telling you the current time. Okay, and then we've got 6 clocks, although there are 5 prayers. This is because one of them refers to the Friday congregational prayer. So, the first time there you can see, the first one, because this is we've got Arabic writing on it, so it goes from right to left, like Arabic. So the top right, this is for the dawn prayer. So at the moment that means 6:30, the congregation takes place. So that's quite an early start. Now think about the summer. When is dawn? This is actually one of the thorniest questions that Muslims deal with in this country. When is dawn in the summer? Because there is no actual end to twilight at night, right? I'm not talking about the movie here, we're talking about the disappearance of that light in the horizon. That means that it's become fully night, so that it can become daytime again. There's some perpetual twilight lingering on the horizon. For that reason, scholars have, lengthy discussions about how to resolve this particular issue. But people might pray that prayer either about 1:30 at night, you can't really call it morning, 1:30, or a little bit later, coming more towards 3 or 4 o'clock. But at this time, it's 6:30, and then you have what's termed the noon prayer, which is the one on the top left. That congregation takes place at 1:10 in this mosque. And then, in the middle on the right, this is the afternoon prayer or the late afternoon prayer. It takes place at 3 o'clock here. And then we have the sunset prayer. This one moves every day because it is pinned to the sunset, which is at the moment 5:30. So if you ever want to know what time is it going to be dark, find your nearest Muslim and ask them, hopefully. Okay, then we have the night prayer, 7:15. And the last, on the bottom left, is the Friday congregational prayer. That is at the same time as the normal noon prayer, which is 1:10. The Friday prayer is the biggest gathering that takes place in any mosque. So for a typical congregational prayer, you might have, the imam will stand here. I'll talk about the imam and the prayer in a short while. But the imam who leads the prayer will stand here, and then you might fill 1, 2, maybe 3 rows of people who come and join the prayers. Okay, but for Friday prayer, this hall will be completely full. There's a hall downstairs. That will be completely full. Yeah, upstairs behind us we have a balcony there, that will be full. The shoe area will be full, and people will be spilling out everywhere. So even though this is a very large building, space is always, a difficult challenge when it comes to Friday prayers. And that really applies to every mosque. I'm often giving or leading the Friday prayers in a mosque in Glasgow, and there they have resolved to have 2 Friday congregations in the same mosque, which is quite unusual, slightly controversial, but in order to resolve the space considerations. Okay, the prayer itself is something which is quite simple. What happens is that people stand in rows, and there are some physical actions and physical states and postures. There are words which are said, and most importantly, of course, is the presence of heart, because the physical things are supposed to help you to have the spiritual presence. How many of you have seen the nature of Muslim prayer before? Yeah? So quite a lot of you have. Really, this is something that the media, I don't know why, always gets really, really badly wrong. I don't know why they insist. I don't know, one of the worst ones was in a series called 24. You've seen the one, Jack Bauer and all that stuff? Yeah, so for some reason, when it comes to portraying the prayer, it's very rarely done in a way that, at all represents the way that people actually pray. They might have them dotted all around different places and looking around in the prayer. I mean, 1 or 2 people might do that, but by and large, everyone remains very focused during prayer. And we're facing towards a particular direction. It's an obvious question, so no prizes.
Which direction is this pointing towards? Towards Mecca. Yeah? So this is, in this country, it's southeast. Right? And I'm told, and I've still to verify this, that satellite dishes also in this country point southeast. So I know some friends who say, oh, if you want to figure out which way to pray, look for the satellite dishes. We need to check this. I don't think it's because they're broadcasting from Mecca. Yeah. But that's southeast. So mosques will always have to be oriented somehow to that. As I mentioned, most mosques are not purpose-built. So oftentimes you won't find the rows being straight. They have to go in funny direction in order to achieve this. So we have a direction. We have, as you can see below you, we have lines. These lines are here to allow us to be able to stand in straight rows in congregation. Apart from that, you really don't need anything else in the mosque. Okay, in terms of features that we have, we talked about a couple of external features. Internally, it's the space, it's the lines, it's the direction. On top of that, we have this pulpit over here, which is termed the minbar in Arabic. This is the pulpit which is used during the Friday congregational prayers especially. And then everything else basically is adornment and decoration. Okay? So having a nice carpet, having chandeliers, this is all just to make the place more peaceful and more beautiful for people to enjoy. The other thing that you can see around you are many copies of the Quran here, and various other type of books, but mostly they are the Quran in Arabic, as well as some translations of the Quran into different languages. Because it's part of worship that a person might sit and read and reflect upon our holy book, to ponder upon the scripture, and that is something which people will do individually, as well as in classes and so on, which take place in the mosque. So in terms of the prayer, when a person is coming to prepare for prayer, we may be able to pass by the area later, but there is, and there's constantly renovation going on there, there is the washing area, the ablution area, as we normally call this, washing as ablution before prayer. So a person would have to just be in a state of cleanliness, or what we might term ritual purity, as well as physical purity, to have clean clothes and, brush your teeth, comb your hair, just to be in the best kind of state when, as we believe, standing before the Creator, standing before God and offering prayer. So after washing, then a person will come. We face towards the direction of prayer. If in congregation the imam, the prayer leader, will stand in the front. But very importantly, the imam will be facing the same direction as everybody else during the prayer. He will perform the same actions as everybody else. Only that he will be keeping everyone together, keeping everyone in time by marking the movements that take place in the prayer. The phrase which is used to open the prayer and which is used at various points throughout the prayer is to say, Allahu Akbar. God is greater. Meaning that God is greater than everything. God is greater than anything. God is greater than our troubles, our worries. God is greater than our work and our business. God is greater than any concern that we may have just before we came to prayer. But a person raises the hands like this and says, Allahu Akbar. And some people said it's like throwing everything behind you at the beginning of prayer. Now this phrase, Allahu Akbar, unfortunately is now coming on the news all the time. For some reason, people on the news, they always say, Allah Akbar. I don't know where they got the kh from. This is invented. It's like just a K. It's very simple. Allahu Akbar. Unfortunately, has become associated with maybe terrorist acts and things like this. We heard those people said it when they, attacked Charlie Hebdo in Paris, or those people said it when they beheaded so-and-so. I think really, as Muslims, we have a need to reclaim this phrase from people misusing it. Because God is greater than whatever it is that they are trying to do against humanity. God is greater than any plot to besmirch the name of Islam as well. So we really need to, this phrase cannot be negotiated with. When it comes to Allahu Akbar, we can't say, oh, let the extremists have it, let violent people have it. Because it's part of our prayer. We can't negotiate on that. Allahu Akbar is a phrase of peace. It is not the opposite of that, as some people portray it. It's a diversion, but I thought an important one. So we begin with Allahu Akbar, and then a person would stand like this. So I'm going to do it in reverse so that you can see. We stand in prayer, just holding one's hands here. And there is some recitation at this point, some praise of God, and recitation from the first chapter of the Quran, which is just 7 verses long, followed by something else from the Quran, which could be short, which could be long. And if you were praying individually, this is just said, by yourself. If you're praying in congregation, then it is said by the Imam. And for some of the prayers, it is recited out loud. In other ones, it is silent. So in the daytime prayers, when the sun is still up, it is recited silently. Recited silently. I know that sounds strange, but he's reciting it, but just in a whispered tone, so people are not hearing it. And that is especially important when you're in a hot country and you're standing outside under the sun, that the prayer gets finished a bit more quickly because the recitation is not being lengthened and not being done out loud. But in the night prayers, including the dawn one, the recitation is allowed. So the Imam is someone who should have a good voice and good command of recitation of the Quran. So after that, he says Allahu Akbar, and they move to the prostration position, which is just a bow like this, and to say some words glorifying God for His greatness, then to come and stand upright again, words of praise, words of reflection, and then Allahu Akbar and down into the prostration position. Okay, so I will show you this, but I'm going to do it in the right direction. It's because I didn't employ an assistant before this who was going to do this for me. This is the prostration position. So this, as you can see, is the physically lowest part of the prayer, but it is spiritually the highest part of the prayer. This is the position of humility. A person is taking this head containing his or her brain. When we are arrogant, we hold our noses up at people like this. And this is now putting your head and your nose down onto the ground. At this point, a person says, "Glory be to my Lord, the Most High." So it is lowliness and in contrast to God's highness and exaltedness. So this is the point also when a person might add more supplications and ask God for whatever they want. Because prayer in Islam is of two types: the formal, fixed type of prayer, and also the informal type of prayer. Some people say, Muslims have to pray 5 times every day, that's so much. But, on the other hand, someone might say, just 5 times a day, you only get to pray 5 times a day. What if you want to ask for something at some other time? Well, that type of prayer is all the time, in any way, in any language. You don't need to wash and prepare yourself to just ask God for something. A person can just raise the hands and just ask. And during the prayer as well, during the formal prayer, a person might ask for whatever it is that they want. So then after that, the person sits up and then does a second prostration, and that completes one cycle of the prayer. The number of cycles of prayer varies from prayer to prayer. So some of them have 2, some have 3, and most of them have 4 cycles of prayer. So that's what takes place here in the mosque or anywhere. Any moment of time, there are people praying. Yeah, there are people praying in any part of the world because the times are so staggered and time zones are so staggered. This is what unites Muslims all around the world. The nature of the prayer, even the exact form of prayer and the words that are recited in prayer, is something which unites them. When you see them coming for the pilgrimage in Mecca, then you see that unity. You see, they come together, and it's not a case of, oh my God, what's these different religions that are being practiced around the world, but this is something that unites everyone. We know how to perform the rites of pilgrimage, and we know how to pray. And in the pilgrimage, they all even dress in a very simple and very united style. Yeah, particularly the men are restricted to that. Women are a little bit more free when it comes to this issue of dressing on the pilgrimage, but men are bound to wear just 2 white cloths. Yeah, and in that sense, it provides a sense of unity and takes away the kind of boundaries and barriers between different races, different social classes as well. That's exactly the idea here in the prayer. There is no reserved space. Pretty much the Imam's space is reserved, but everybody else is a first come, first served. In that sense, you don't get to say, well, I'm a very important person, this is my particular position. If you come late, you're at the back. It's as simple as that. Men and women's arrangements for prayer is another thing. So mosques tend to operate under different systems, but by and large, in the traditional sense and in the original sense, the main prayer hall, really one prayer hall, is for everybody. Although when it comes to arranging ourselves in lines, men will form the rows at the front, and then there are rows for the women. Different mosques do this in different ways. Here, in this mosque, there is a balcony. You can see that behind you, which is overlooking here. This is specifically for women. It's reserved for women. As you can see by the fact that you're here right now, that doesn't make that this space is exclusive for men. However, on Friday prayers, it would work out that way because, as I said, the space issues. But as you may have visited mosques in different parts of the world, say if you were in Turkey or in Egypt, you'll see different ways that people organize themselves and arrange themselves. Women's access to mosques and women's involvement in mosques is something which is often really falls short of what the principles of religion should have. Yeah? But here we have one of the better arrangements. And here also there's a lot of participation by women in the running of the mosque. Secretly this mosque is actually run by a woman. Yeah, may God give her good health. Because she's under so much stress from running this mosque that she's currently just having to recover a little bit. But Sister Janice, who basically is the mosque secretary and acting as its director at the moment. This is something quite special, really quite special. But in particular, we have so many circles and activities. Actually, women are probably far more active in this particular mosque than the men. Yeah, I'm not saying that to flatter anyone. So that's the kind of idea about the prayer. The Imam, as I was telling you, will give a speech on the Friday prayer. So that is the purpose of this pulpit here, this minbar here. Before the congregational prayer, he would stand there and deliver a sermon, and that sermon is intended to touch on issues of the day, to touch on essential issues of faith, to remind people about their duties in this life, to remind people about the hereafter, to call people to refine their character. But importantly, it should touch on things which are concerns of the moment. Yeah, so naturally, when things are coming in the news, it's important that the imams and the mosque leaders should feel the pulse of the people as well, to think about what are the issues that are needed to raise. Okay, so I'll leave my sort of lengthy comments here, but I will ask you if you've got any questions that you want to ask about what we discussed.
Mm-hmm. So you can see the lines on the carpet. So these are for to make the lines straight. So a person would come in, and the first person would maybe stand here, facing towards Kaaba, which is that way, and the next person would come and join him here, all the way along. So when this line is complete, then they'll start the next line. So it's not like I'm a rich person, so I need to have a special seat or something. It's not like that at all. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, poor, rich, whatever. You'll stand next to the person, you'll form the lines. And actually, I think when the prince who had given the money for completing this mosque, when he had come and he had actually prayed alongside all the other people, he hadn't got a special seat or anything, because in Islam, everybody's equal. So, do you want to say anything?
And I want to just add on to this archway here is called the mihrab, and what that is showing you your direction to prayer. So when it comes to praying, you'll see this a lot in a lot of the mosques. It's always showing direction of prayer. And the idea, I want to just kind of go on to the idea of unity in Islam. Mm-hmm. It's a very big concept. So firstly, when you're in your lines, everyone is the same. Everyone's always the same in the eyes of God. And then everywhere you go in the world, people are always going to be facing the same direction and praying at the same time. And this, for me, is a very powerful part of praying, is when you're not just standing there on your own praying, but you're doing it together. There's a whole community, 1.7 billion people in the world. They're doing the same thing as you, saying the same thing as you, all facing the same direction as well. I wanted to mention that because I think it gives a lot of peace to someone when you're praying.
Yeah.
That you're doing it all together.
Definitely, yeah.
This over here is where the Imam stands when he's giving the khutbah, the Friday sermon. So it's the minbar. It's called minbar. It's where the Imam stands to give his khutbah. And you'll see later on after the tour when we're going to pray, you'll see people lining up in rows here to pray, and you're more than welcome to join them as well. This here is where the Imam stands, and around you you can see lots of the shelves. I'm sure you all know that on these shelves is the Quran, which is the holy book of Islam. We believe that it's the purest form of the words of God. So we have lots of other books as well, but we believe that the Quran is in its purest form, in the form that it was revealed in. And shall we have a little look around the mosque?
Yeah.
What are the other 3 pillars?
Yeah. So the belief in God, the prayers, and the fasting, the month of fasting. So just the same as maybe Chinese have their own calendar, Muslims we have a calendar of our own as well, the Islamic calendar, and one of the months in that calendar is called Ramadan, and we believe that the Quran started to be revealed during that month, and God asked us to pray during that month as well, so that is why we pray from the start of that month to the end, and we fast from sunrise to sunset, okay? And there are a few reasons why we do that. Firstly, God has asked us to do that. So, if we believe in God, we accept what he says and we do that. The second one is, so we get to feel what it feels like to be hungry. We're very lucky here. Obviously, we've got so much food and, we can run out to the shops and buy anything. But there are so many people in the world who don't have anything. And the only way that we can find out how they feel is by actually starving ourselves, you see. And when we do that, it helps us our brains are kind of thinking about other things rather than food. They're not filled with all these chemicals from food and everything. And which leads us on to the next one, which is charity. In that month, we give a lot of charity. We give charity all during the year, but especially that month, we feel it's a special month. And I don't know, maybe because we're fasting or something, we just feel like giving more charity. Another thing was about the fasting. Having control of yourself helps you to control your mind over your body. Sometimes if you're addicted to coffee and there's a cup of coffee lying there, and will you be able to control yourself from having that coffee? Sometimes it's really hard. But during that month, we do try to, it trains us to do that, to control our desires, to control our desires. And
human desires, they're kind of set like a pyramid basis. So you start from, as a human being, what you need first needs to be satisfied before your mind and your body then desires something else. So when you're fasting, you don't eat, you don't swear, you have to control your tongue. You don't take care, you don't have sexual intercourse or anything. So you're controlling that desire, etc., etc. So if you're going to remove the base desire, which is food, if you're going to get rid of that, then you're kind of drowning out the rest of your desires in your body. And that means that your desire to connect with God then gets hurt. So when you're eating and you're filling yourself up with all the other desires, sometimes your desire to connect with God is kind of drowned out, if you like. So what you're doing here is you're kind of hushing them all down so that you can connect to God in a purer way. And you're more aware of yourself. So you're more aware when you're going to backbite, when you're going to swear, when you're going to tell a lie. You're more aware of the actions that you're going to do. Your intentions are always at the forefront of your mind. And you're doing this for the entire month. So it's like a month of kind of purifying your mind and cleansing yourself. And that's like a kickstart for the whole year. And you can obviously do that throughout the year as well.
And it's a detox. You feel great after it, actually. People think that, oh my God, you must be crazy not eating. But it's actually quite amazing. It's actually really healthy for you as well, isn't it? So that leads us on to charity, as I said. So there are various forms of charity that we give. Charity doesn't necessarily have to be just money. It can be a smile, it can be doing some volunteering, picking up rubbish off the floor, helping a neighbour, anything. That sort of charity is called a sadaqah. Another sort of charity is the zakat, which is obligatory on every Muslim who is
there's like a borderline of wealth that you have once you reach that border.
So you would see how much wealth you have in terms of money, gold, silver, property. Sum it all up, and 2.5% of that you would give to a charity. And you can give it to any charity as long as it's a needy, as going to a needy person. So you can't give it to, say, a youth group who's wanting new computers or something. Yeah, you have to give it to somebody who's actually starving or haven't got food, heat, whatever, a home to stay. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So that leads us to the last one, which is the pilgrimage, the Hajj, it's called. And the pilgrimage is done once in your lifetime. Okay, just once in your lifetime, if you can. So I'm saying if you can afford it. It doesn't cost to actually go there, but it doesn't cost to be there. Sorry, but it does cost like your airfares or your visa or staying there, your food, accommodation, all that sort of stuff. So a lot of people before, they used to save up, and they used to be quite elderly by the time they went there. But these days, as people are getting richer, they can go when they're younger. I went about 9 or 10 years ago, and it's quite an experience actually. So, but we can have a look at that downstairs, can't we? So I think, should we just go down and have a chat?
You can have a little look around the mosque, and then we'll go downstairs in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you have any questions,
Yeah.
I'm here to listen to you, and Shams as well at the back.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah?
So which language is used here? Is it English or Arabic or?
So, with regard to language, first of all, the language of the prayer itself is Arabic. And that is something which is universal. But besides that, languages of teaching, languages of discussion, languages of the sermon, primarily are English and Arabic. There's a lot of Arabic-speaking people who use this mosque, but there are lots, of course, and this is, as the statistics showed you, most Muslims in this country and community come from South Asian background. So there are also some classes that take place in the Urdu language and so on. There are some mosques in Edinburgh which are more specialized in that. There is no actual sense of a mosque being for one ethnic community, but oftentimes people organize themselves in that way. So it becomes informally known that so-and-so is a Pakistani mosque and so-and-so is a Bangladeshi mosque. So down in Annandale Street we have 2 mosques there. There's the Annandale Street Mosque and there's the Annandale Street Lane Mosque. Yeah, one of which is predominantly Pakistani in its kind of background and language use, and the other one which is predominantly Bangladeshi. But every mosque is open for everybody. Do you have more questions? Should we take one or two from others first? Yeah.
Do evening prayers interrupt someone's social life?
Hopefully, yeah, they would.
As a film, for example.
Right. Well, the thing is that oftentimes prayers might interrupt something else, but I would rather look at it the other way around. Do our social concerns interrupt our prayer life? Because there's 2 ways of looking at the prayers and about life. Where do we put the priority and what do we consider to be first and what is secondary? However, that being said, I'll give you a gentler answer, which is that the prayers themselves can span over quite a lengthy period of time. So, especially the evening prayer. Especially the night prayer as such. Sunset prayer, its window is a little bit tight. So if the sun sets while you're doing something, you have to make time to go and pray. Prayer itself might take 5 minutes, might take even less. So in that sense, it is not such an onerous task. And like I said, you don't have to go to the mosque in order to perform prayers. It interrupts shopping, I will say. A person is out shopping and then the time for prayer comes, or the time for prayer is running out. So they have to find a way, a little corner somewhere. The Primark changing rooms is a popular one. So they'll find somewhere just to perform the prayer quickly. And unfortunately, I would say this just as a perspective of someone, who's born and brought up in this country. I think it's a shame that prayer is something that you have to sort of hide and find a way to do it behind a curtain so nobody knows that you're praying. There are public toilets and there are lots of other things. Why do we not see prayer? From all different faiths, from all different traditions, all different beliefs. Why don't we see it as something that is a bit more celebrated? In some places it is. You have in airports, you sometimes have chapels and prayer rooms. Here in the university there are various places that people can go in different campuses and so on. But oftentimes, like if you're watching a film, you'll choose the one that won't interrupt the prayer time, and then the prayer can be done afterwards. because the night prayer can be done all the way up until dawn. Yeah? Yeah?
The way I understood it is that one of the prayers is for dawn, one is for sunset. But how are the other times? What's the reasoning behind those?
That's a good question. The time for prayers follow the movement of the sun to a certain extent. So one of them is when the first crack of dawn happens, so before sunrise, a couple of hours before sunrise. Then when it reaches its highest point, which in this country is not that high actually, but yeah, that is when the noon prayer begins, once it just passes that. Then you have, once it has started to decline quite a bit, so that a person's shadow would be the same length as their height. Yeah, that is the time of the third prayer. Or according to another school of thought, once the shadow becomes twice that length. Yeah. And then once the sun sets, and then once the twilight disappears. So that marks the 5 prayer times. Yeah. Shall I come back to yourself and then you? Yeah. Yeah, go on.
Are these times for everybody? When they go here, see the times, and then they'll, okay, this is what I'll do as well? Or?
Yes, but like I was mentioning, that a more detailed timetable will tell you when does that prayer time start and when does it end. So this is what's up here that we can see clearly here is the congregation times. So a person praying at home or in another mosque could have another specific time when they actually fulfill the prayer. Yeah. So come to yourself.
Yes, I was just asking because I come from Finland and I know that our Muslims have these exceptions for all these times, and especially for Ramadan because they would die if it's in summer.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if Scotland is included that do you have any kind of special?
I wish. Of course, Scotland, like I said, is not as extreme in its northernness than Finland. I'll come to you in a moment. But the fasts at the current time are around 20 hours, or close to 20 hours. But it would take a bit of a bold scholarly leadership to say that we should follow the time of another country. I think some people have as individuals, become frustrated, and they started to find, individual opinions said by some scholars in Egypt and so on, which said that basically anywhere north of, anywhere in Europe basically, that you can just adopt the time of Morocco, for example, right? But that's not a position that's really all that popular amongst people here, because at the same time one wants to have a certain amount of caution to make sure that the fast is going to be accepted. It's not all about making it easy, making it, to not feel hunger, because that would sort of defeat the purpose. But there's a balance between that and thinking about, okay, those who would struggle to fast because of their health or physical condition. But also it is the case that if somebody would become ill from fasting, that they're exempted from fasting. Yeah, that's your question?
A comment to that actually, because I'm from Sweden, so
right.
Similar problems, but what's been on discussion the past 2 or 3 years is to follow the sunset and sunrise in Mecca instead.
Right,
because,
right.
If you live in northern Sweden, you will have 24-hour days.
Yeah, yeah. In those cases, it becomes essential to follow somewhere else. But I think that still the majority of Muslims in this country feel like, we don't want to give up. It's as if to say that we were not supposed to be in this country, and so we have to follow Mecca. I would rather say we want to follow our own rather unnatural situation of the sun. But yeah, we'll see what happens in a few years, But this debate happens whenever we come to summer. Nobody says in the winter, these fasts are too short, we should follow Makkah. It's interesting, there's a little psychological issue here, I think.
Does it, even thinking about the prayer times in the winter, like up in the north, there's like no sunshine for 3 months.
Right,
so
right.
How like, when I suppose
Yeah. But there it has to be done by estimation and, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah?
How easy was it to, not to build, but to get permission to build here? Was there much opposition from society, or was it quite widely accepted?
To be honest, I don't know. I was probably a bit young. But I've not heard that there was really opposition in this community to the building of the mosque. And I haven't heard that has affected other mosques in this city to the best of my knowledge. There are issues like that take place in different parts of the country and in Glasgow, because I know that in certain areas in East Renfrewshire, people have been trying for a long time to build mosques and they always get a lot of opposition. But I think if you got in there early enough, then you were okay. And now it's just slightly harder. There are also, as you may have seen, some campaigns, anti-Muslim campaigns, and there's an organisation which calls itself Britain First, which has done what it describes itself as invasions of mosques. And one of these so-called invasions was on Glasgow Central Mosque, another one in Cumbernauld. It wasn't really an invasion, but they're styling it that way because they sort of dress up in kind of faux military style jackets, and they take army Bibles. I don't know where they're acquiring them from, but they're going into the mosque and basically saying, you need to do this and that, and we're warning you against extremism and you better watch out. And here's a Bible. Yeah, thankfully nobody imagines that such people represent any religion. But this is something to be concerned about, that mosques tend to be seen with a certain amount of hostility. But I also feel that probably mosques should be taking a proactive approach to counteracting that by just being more open, and we don't want to see a situation where everything goes on lockdown and people become scared. Do you have more questions? Yeah?
As I know that there are differences between Muslim, religious differences between Muslims, how are these differences, I don't know how to say, presented?
When it comes to mosques,
Yeah.
different denominations and sects within Islam, you mean?
No, like different, religious differences among Islam.
And how does that translate into the mosque environment? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the thing is that, as I was saying, the mosque has to be there really for everyone, because prayer is prayer. We don't have to all agree with each other about everything. And by the way, I got into trouble some years ago when there was like a news reporter came and asked about what do we do in this mosque, and I was volunteering here at that time to combat extremism and stuff like that. And what do you do if someone comes to the mosque who's got extremist views? And I said something along the following lines, that we have to just present the right ideas. We have to promote the right kind of discourse and dialogue. That's what we teach. But if somebody's got some other views, then we're not the thought police. Yeah. But then later on, this sort of right-wing think tank found that and said that, this person, he says that we don't have any responsibility to combat extremism, etc. But I stand by my point. We can't be the thought police. We can't make everyone think alike and think the same. Putting aside issues of extremism, just people come from different backgrounds and schools of thought within Islam. They might pray in slightly different ways, but the mosque has to be big enough to encompass everyone. In practice, of course, if a person feels that one mosque is more representative of how he or she practices Islam, then they'll gravitate towards that one, just as they might do so on ethnic basis or linguistic basis, as we said. Yeah?
Are there any problems or on the side mixed marriages and things like that between the Shia and Sunni Muslims in Scotland? Is that an issue at all?
Between Shia and Sunni Muslims in Scotland? To be honest, I don't really see any. I mean, naturally there are places in the world where there's a lot of conflict around the Shia-Sunni divide. But thankfully, I've not seen that being translated into people's lives here. I'm glad to say.
At the moment, in average?
The proportion?
Yeah.
In Scotland? No, number of Muslims in Scotland, I think other people know better. but between Sunni and Shia?
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't know, but I would assume it's something along the same lines as globally. Yeah, globally it's around 90 to 10%, 90% Sunni, 10% Shia. In some particular countries, of course, the balance is a lot shifted from that. But in this country, we do have Shia organizations, Shia centers, mosques. Oftentimes they are called the Ahl al-Bayt or Al al-Bayt society. So we have that in Edinburgh. We have similar in Glasgow. But this is, I would say this is a Sunni mosque. Except that by saying that, I would not like to say that means that Shias, for example, are not welcome. Or even that people who are not Muslim are not welcome. Even to call it a Muslim mosque, you know, it is a Muslim mosque, of course, and the people who run it are Muslims, and the people who run it are Sunnis, but that shouldn't mean that it is reserved for any group, yeah, to the exclusion of others. Now, I'm thinking of taking you in other parts of the mosque, but to be honest with you, it would be a case of us traipsing through some corridors, and I'm not really I'm not sure how valuable that experience would be. But does anyone feel that that would be something that you were hoping to do? I've undersold it, of course. What I mean is seeing the sort of general shape of the mosque and other parts of the building. Would you like to do that? What we can do is we can do a sort of round trip, and then we'll end up back kind of here at the front. And then we can get our shoes, and since it's still sunny outside, we can stand outside, and you know, our time will be probably just about running, you know, to its end. Although I personally am happy to stick around if anyone has got more questions, then that's very welcome. Just don't want to trap anyone, yeah? So what we can do is we'll go in this direction, and we'll see what we can see. If the hall downstairs is open, then we can have a little look at some of the exhibition materials that are there as well. Okay?
There's a rigid education system for it, and it's multi-layered, meaning you can learn some verses of the Quran on a more surface layer, but each verse has multiple depths of meanings, which as you advance throughout your education, you'll start to gather more and more. That's why you enter more when reading the Quran.
And that's why whenever people interpret it, you get a scholar, you will say at the end of anything he says, you'll say, God knows best. And that's what we finish it. So he'll be like, I think this, have like an hour's lecture. Because God does know best.
You were asking about the memorization.
Yeah. You guys go down?
Yeah.
Should I go down? Yeah.
They don't know where they're going.
If you just go down, just that door there.
Thank you for coming. Oh, it's good to see you.
Sorry.
You're the last one.
There's a couple more, I think.
A few more.
You can see all the pilgrims there. Millions of people go there, and it's expanding every year. So they want to make space for more people to go there, and it's on about 3 floors as well. See the minarets there. So when the call to prayer is taking place, you can imagine if somebody's calling to prayer from all of each of those minarets, and it's being heard all over the city, and they don't have speakers or anything. It's done by voice. Are there any questions?
How many people can the mosque fit?
Well, this is an old picture, I think. I'm not sure now. How many people do you think? About
it's been recently, they made it bigger recently to fit a ridiculous number of people, like millions and millions of people. They expanded it because it was so like cramps all the time in there. So they did expand it recently. I don't know the exact number.
I don't know the exact number, but it's in the millions. Yeah. And when we go to pilgrimage, there are 3 days in the year that the pilgrimage takes place. So the first day we would come here, and we have to go around the Kaaba 7 times. Anti-clockwise 7 times. So this is one of the traditions of the Prophet Abraham that we're following. Okay? And on the second day, we would go to another place which is just outside here, which is called Mina. There's nothing. There's a desert, there are hills, the sky, nothing there. And what you have to do is to sleep out on the sand out in the sorry?
In the desert.
In the desert, yeah. Out in the desert, you have to sleep there. And the purpose of that is, sometimes we as humans are so proud. We think that, we've got a better coat or something like that, or we've got more money, we're proud, But when you're out there, everybody has got nothing. You've got absolutely nothing there. And it just makes you feel like, well, actually, we're not that big. We're quite small. And
even in this place, like in terms of the hotels, you have some very basic hotels and you have 5-star hotels. So even in that in itself, there's a bit of a, like the people who are rich feel like they've got some sort of importance for being in a 5-star hotel. And what this is saying is, no, you're in this moment, in this place, when you're doing your worship, you're all the same. And we're going to make sure that everyone knows you're the same. Firstly, you line up the same, and then when you're sleeping, you're exactly the same.
There's absolutely nothing there. There are no luxuries or anything. And I mean, when I went there, I like my comfy bed. I was quite dreading that, but I actually had the best sleep ever. It was really nice.
I've never been, so.
Yeah, and then we'll come back to this place and do the farewell pilgrimage. And there are other acts of sunnah that we do in between that. But the 3 days are the days of Hajj. Most people will stay on for 10 days or something like that. We stay for 10 days, just to do more worship. And I mean, I don't know if we're going to ever go there again. So you make the most of when you're there. So that's the Hajj pilgrimage. Just talk about this room. This room is the multi-purpose hall. It's called. And you'll see that there are posters all around. So during the Edinburgh Festival, we actually have this mosque open as a venue of to visit. We have an exhibition here. We have various talks, films, shows. There are volunteers here to ask any questions. So during that whole month, for about 3 weeks, this is open. And then this is the room that we use for the youth groups. We use it for the mother and toddler group. together, or even brothers having a get-together, they can use this room. So it's a multi-purpose room. You can use it for whatever. The posters are quite good, so it might be quite nice if you want to go around and have a look at the posters. I just want to have a quick chat about this one. What do Muslims think about Mary, the mother of Jesus? So all the prophets that are in the Bible or in the Torah, or we believe in those prophets as well. Okay? So Jesus is one of the beloved prophets, or one of the beloved prophets, and we believe the story that Mary, she gave birth to him, and it was a miraculous birth. And this story is actually in the Quran. So the root of all of the religions is the same, but they've just kind of got scattered a little bit. But most of the things, you'll find that they are the same. The prophets are the same. There's Prophet Dawood, who's Prophet David in the Bible, Dawood in Islam, Jesus, we call him Isa. So it's the same prophet. Moses, Musa, Abraham, Eva.
All of the prophets, like Prophet Joseph.
Yeah.
All of the prophets that you've got that you can see in Christianity and Judaism, we also believe in them as them. It's actually one of the fundamentals of faith. To believe in Prophet Jesus and Prophet Abraham and Idris and Joseph. It's to be a Muslim, you have to believe in all of these prophets as well.
So I think if you want to just have a look around at the posters, and again, if there are any questions, feel free to ask.
I want to say quite briefly about the posters. There's a lot of information in this room, and I want you to read all of them. But for your own interest, to see what courses you're interested in, there's a lot of to tell you what it's about. There's a question here, so read the questions, and then you can see what it is you're interested in. Women are mentioned a lot on this wall here, and I think it's very worthwhile having a read of what Islam actually says about women. I recommend it for all of this. Yeah, and any questions we're here just wandering around, so just grab us. No worries. Any questions?
I didn't say that. You mean the better, the good microphone?
No, the microphone is when you're recording, you're like, now we don't need that.
No, I said we don't need a better camera.
No, because the mic
I said the ones we have are good. No, maybe you're right.
we'll see it like,
Now it's perfect.
This certain section of the voice was not. It makes it perfect. Really simple. When you see when it goes to like just the camera, that's the microphone.
That's pretty good, right?
The Americans are